Something is clearly wrong, and the White House knows it. For months, the official message has stayed exactly the same. Donald Trump is healthy. Donald Trump is strong. Donald Trump is supposedly one of the fittest presidents in modern American history. But behind closed doors right now, a quiet visit to one of the most secure military hospitals in the United States is being arranged, and the timing of that visit says far more than the official statements ever will. This is not routine. This is not normal. And once you understand what doctors have already discovered, once you look at what has been hidden behind carefully written press releases and the makeup covering the backs of his hands, it becomes obvious why the people closest to this president seem far more concerned than they admit publicly. The visit has already been scheduled, the date is locked in, and the question being asked all across Washington right now is not whether something is wrong, but how serious the situation actually is. Here's what really happened. Late Monday night, the White House quietly released a short statement. Not a press conference, not a major public announcement, just a brief notice. The kind designed to place information on the record without drawing too much attention to it. The statement said President Donald Trump would undergo medical and dental examinations at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center on May 26th. Routine preventive care, they claimed. Nothing unusual. Nothing worth worrying about. But the statement left out something important. This will be Trump's fourth publicly known visit to medical specialists since returning to office. 4 visits in less than 5 months. And the last time a sitting president made that many visits to Walter Reed in such a short period of time, it was never considered routine. It never is. And that brings us to what doctors have already found, because this health story didn't suddenly begin this week. It started months ago with a detail most people barely noticed. Trump reportedly began experiencing swelling in his lower legs. The White House described it as mild, but mild swelling in the legs of a 79-year-old man is never simply mild. It is a symptom, and that symptom eventually led doctors to a diagnosis that was quietly buried deep inside a press release most media outlets discussed for only a single news cycle before moving on. Chronic venous insufficiency. That is the diagnosis Trump received. And if that term sounds unfamiliar, here's what it means. It is a condition where the valves inside the veins stop functioning properly. Blood no longer moves back toward the heart the way it should. Instead, it begins to collect and pool in the legs and feet, creating pressure that the cardiovascular system was never meant to handle for long periods of time. In older patients, doctors often view it as a warning sign. Not an immediate disaster, not some dramatic collapse, but a clear sign that the body is beginning to show wear from age. And Donald Trump turns 80 next month. Think about that for a moment. The sitting president of the United States, the man controlling nuclear codes and signing laws that impact more than 330 million Americans, is only weeks away from becoming the oldest person ever to hold the office. And doctors have already confirmed that blood is pooling in his legs. But there is another part of this story that almost nobody is discussing: the bruising. Around the same time the reports about leg swelling surfaced, journalists started noticing visible bruising on the backs of Trump's hands. The bruises were photographed, documented, and impossible to ignore. Yet when reporters questioned the White House about it, the response they received sounded far from convincing. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt claimed the bruising was simply the result of frequent handshaking combined with aspirin use. That became the official explanation: handshakes and aspirin. The explanation was accepted, reported, and then quickly forgotten. But very few people stopped to ask the obvious follow-up question that many doctors watching that briefing were already thinking about. Aspirin thins the blood, and blood thinners absolutely can cause bruising, but doctors do not casually prescribe blood thinners without reason. They prescribe them when there is concern about clots, strokes, or serious cardiovascular risks. In other words, now there are multiple things happening at the same time: swelling in the legs, a confirmed diagnosis of chronic venous insufficiency, visible bruising that appears consistent with blood thinner use, and now a 4th hospital visit in under 5 months. Then there is the issue of the photographs themselves, because over the last several months, public images of Trump have revealed something else that image consultants and stylists noticed immediately. The bruising on the backs of his hands does not appear consistently in every photo. Sometimes the bruises are visible, and sometimes they seem to vanish entirely. And in the pictures where they disappear, the skin texture appears unusually smooth and flat, the exact kind of appearance makeup creates when something is being covered. The President of the United States has apparently been using cosmetic makeup on his hands to hide bruising. That is not speculation or political commentary. It is what the photographic evidence strongly suggests. And the reason it matters is because people do not hide things they consider unimportant. They do not conceal something they believe will simply disappear on its own. They hide things when controlling the public narrative becomes necessary, when what people are seeing begins to conflict with the story officials are trying to sell. And this is where the situation becomes genuinely uncomfortable, because Trump himself may have accidentally revealed more than intended. Last year, after doctors conducted imaging on his heart and abdomen, Trump publicly admitted he regretted allowing the scans to happen. Not because doctors found something catastrophic, at least not publicly, but because, in his own words, the scans created questions about his health that he did not want people asking. Think carefully about what that actually means. The president openly admitted that he regretted allowing doctors to examine his heart and abdomen because simply looking inside his body created public concern. That is not the reaction of someone fully confident there is nothing to worry about. That is the reaction of someone who understands how dangerous health scrutiny can become once those questions start spreading publicly. And now, only 2 weeks after returning from a major summit in Beijing, possibly the most physically exhausting diplomatic trip of his second term, Trump's doctors have scheduled another visit to Walter Reed. The timing matters. It always matters. A trip to China involves exhausting flights, major time zone disruption, non-stop diplomatic meetings, and intense face-to-face negotiations with Chinese President Xi Jinping. If this were truly routine care, it likely would not be scheduled immediately after one of the most demanding international trips of the year. Routine medical appointments are usually arranged during quieter stretches of the calendar, not right after a president returns from the other side of the planet handling high-pressure diplomatic negotiations. Either something happened during the Beijing trip, or something was already developing beforehand, and the stress of that trip made it worse. And now, only days after Air Force One returned home, doctors want him back at Walter Reed again. Independent medical experts with no ties to the administration have pointed out that chronic venous insufficiency in a patient approaching 80 requires constant monitoring. It does not simply disappear, and it rarely improves without careful management. The kind of schedule Trump maintains, constant travel, rallies, long periods of sitting and standing, irregular sleep, and nonstop movement, is exactly the type of lifestyle that makes circulatory problems more difficult to control. Add in the bruising. Add the blood thinner concerns. Add the imaging of his heart and abdomen that Trump later said he regretted. Add 4 medical visits in under 5 months. Suddenly, the word routine begins to feel far less believable than the White House wants people to think. Because the truth is, there is really no such thing as routine when it comes to presidential medicine. Every visit by a sitting president to Walter Reed matters. Every scan matters. Every test matters. The president is not an ordinary citizen whose health affects only himself. The health of the president affects financial markets, international alliances, military calculations, and the confidence of allies and enemies around the world. When the president visits Walter Reed, the world pays attention. And when the White House tries to present that visit as if it were nothing more than a simple dental cleaning, people naturally notice the gap between the official messaging and the facts already on record. And the record points towards something more serious. 4 medical visits in 5 months. A diagnosed circulatory condition. Visible bruising linked to blood thinner use. Photographic evidence suggesting cosmetic concealment. A president openly admitting he regretted doctors examining his heart. And now another Walter Reed visit scheduled just days after the most physically demanding diplomatic trip of his second term. None of these details alone necessarily signal a crisis. Venous insufficiency is common among older adults. Bruising from blood thinners is expected. Medical checkups happen all the time. But when all of these details are combined, when you examine the timing, the frequency, and the extremely careful way information has been managed publicly, the picture that emerges is one of an administration monitoring something very closely. And administrations only monitor things this carefully when the stakes are extremely high. The White House will likely continue describing May 26th as routine. They will probably release another carefully written statement afterward using words like stable, healthy, and strong. And those words may technically be true. But they will also be words selected by people who understand that openly admitting the president is an 80-year-old man dealing with a circulatory condition while visiting Walter Reed 4 times in 5 months could raise major political and international concerns during an election cycle that never truly ends. So here is where things stand right now. The visit is scheduled. Walter Reed is preparing. And somewhere between the late-night press release, the makeup covering bruises on the backs of his hands, the blood pooling in his legs, and Trump publicly regretting heart imaging, the most powerful office in the world is carrying a question nobody inside that building wants to answer directly. What exactly are doctors looking for on May 26th? There is still no official answer to that question, but the paper trail already exists. The diagnosis exists. The bruising exists. The timing exists. The 4 medical visits exist. The carefully crafted language exists. And records like that do not simply disappear. The next 2 months may reveal whether this truly was routine care for the oldest president in American history, or whether May 26th at Walter Reed becomes the moment when something quietly managed behind the scenes finally had to be addressed publicly. Pay attention to this story because whatever doctors find at Walter Reed, whatever gets released publicly and whatever remains hidden, the growing gap between what officials are saying and what the record already shows may become one of the biggest political stories in the country. Not because of politics itself, but because of what happens when the person holding the most powerful office on earth is visibly aging. The doctors are watching closely. The White House keeps insisting everything is routine, and the facts no longer fit together as neatly as they want people to believe.